Hi, what up, y'all? How's it going? Man, I don't even know if I'm centered, but I hope so. I ran a couple test runs. It looked alright, Let me take these off for just a moment. First of all, hi, welcome. This is the Sexual Intellectual Podcast. This guy right here, I am JD, aka He Who Pods. And man, it's been a long time since I did a solo pod. There's been a lot of other stuff going on, but I know I've neglected y'all, and I'm sorry for that. I aim to be better, and that's really all I can say, because I don't really want to talk about what happened or give excuses, because really that's what it is. No reason I can't come up here and do this despite whatever is going on in life. So that's the aim. The aim is to be better. So please bear with me. If you're still here, I thank you for your patience. If you're new here, hi, welcome aboard. This should be a fun one. Man, I just feel like out of practice. I've been doing so much co-host stuff. I've been out the solo game for a minute. Shame on me. Things are different setup wise. So, it might take a couple episodes to perfect this new setup for me. Same space, different setup. So bear with me. I'm working on some things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the specs off when I'm only talking to y'all. Because I already know, based on when I did tests, that when I have the specs on, there's some glare, and a lot of glare in some instances. All type of ring light going on. So that's the plan. Reading, specs on, no reading, specs off. And maybe that'll change in coming episodes as well, because I got a few things I'm working on. But if you don't know what we do here, because it's been a hot minute, I'm sorry. My movie fan brain, my movie buff brain started working. There's a scene in one of my favorite movies called The Soloist, where Robert Downey Jr. is trying to convince Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who works for the LA Times, I believe it is. He's trying to convince I guess the manager of a shelter to do something, and he won't do it. And the guy from the shelter keeps telling Robert Downey Jr.'s character, that's not what we do here. And finally, Robert Downey Jr.'s character says, what you guys do here is fucked. And that's what I thought about. Anywho, if you don't know what we do here, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about current events. We talk about politics. We talk about dating. We talk about sex. And sometimes we throw some random stuff in there too. So let's get to it. Also, I guess while we're speaking of just new things, if you don't follow me on social media, you're going to be missing out on some things. I'm going to be doing our quickie segments on social media with a little bit of a twist. So if you follow me, Cherry Eggplants, go check it out. Or I should say, if you follow me, keep an eye out. And if you don't follow me, go follow Cherry Eggplants on social media. And let's get to it, man. Let's start off with something fun. Or at least I think so anyway. So before I throw the specs on, there's a lot of dating apps, and that's going to be one of the focuses of this episode. When I first started doing this pod, I spoke a lot about dating and sex and interacting with other humans in that kind of realm. And I want to go back to some of the core things like that. So dating apps have been spoken about on this platform many times before. And that's one of the things I want to talk about. So we all know that there's tons and tons of dating apps. There's niche ones and different types. where one person has to make the first move or the other person has to make the first move. There's some where you can only leave a comment. There's all type of dating apps now. There's dating apps for couples. There's dating apps for singles. There's dating apps for people who are ethical non-monogamous. There's dating apps for people who are polyamorous. There's all type of dating apps. But one that's been around for a while is an app called Bumble. You probably know it. Bumble is known for being the app where women have to make the first move. And because women have to make the first move, it gives them, this is what they say, they've always said that because women are able to make the first move, it makes women more comfortable, it gives them more power, and it creates a better dating experience because they're not just drowning in a bunch of dudes who want to be with them and they don't want to the women don't want to entertain those men. That's what they're famous for. I'm sure there's plenty of other things going on, but since the beginning, that's kind of been their shtick. That, on this platform, women decide when things happen. So basically, the woman has to make the first move, I guess is the best way to sum it up. That's kind of what their thing has been from the beginning. But that's about to change. So, time for specs and some glare. This article is from CNN. And it says here, dating app Bumble will no longer require women to make the first move. 10 years after creating a new model for dating apps with its, quote, women make the first move feature, Bumble is opening the door to men starting conversations on its platform. Bumble is rolling out a new feature called Opening Moves that will let female users set a prompt to which male suitors can respond to initiate a conversation. The feature reverses a long-standing requirement by the app that women send the first message to their matches, which Bumble said, it's always funny when you see these things, which Bumble said gave women more power over their dating lives. And I say it's funny because I was trying to summarize it and remember what they said. And there it is right in the article, folks. All right, so there that goes. The new feature is part of a larger relaunch. A larger relaunch of the app announced Tuesday by the new CEO, LaDaine Jones, who took over the top job from founder Whitney Wolfe Herd earlier this year. The move comes as dating apps broadly are working to maintain their relevance as some singles have become burnt out on online dating and are seeking more in-person connections. So funny that they mentioned that. We'll be speaking more about that in a few minutes. Jones sees the Bumble redesign as a way to help the platform meet that moment. Quote, we are seeing a greater need for authentic human connections, Jones told CNN in an interview ahead of the launch. Quote, I didn't anticipate that the number of people using online dating apps is going to go down. I misread that. I'm sorry, y'all. Too much. You see what happens when you're alone with no co-host? Man, shout out to all my co-hosts. Shout out to Dashing D, all the fellas at Man Cave, and my daughter and our endeavor. It says here, I'm sorry. She said, I don't anticipate the number of people using online dating, is going to go down. Quite the opposite, but there is a higher bar. So we're taking it as a great call to action to center ourselves on our mission. I probably should have done this after some sleep. I'm tired, but I really wanted to pod before bed. And so I apologize if I sound like I'm a little robotic. So, yeah, the opening moves feature is one way Jones says Bumble is evolving while staying true to its original mission of empowering women. Now, women users will have the option to continue initiating conversations with matches or to set an opening move. For example, a question about a potential match dream dinner guest that would indicate, that would indicate they want their match to reach out first. For non-binary users or those seeking same gender matches, either person can set and respond to an opening move. That's interesting. We're gonna put that a pin in that for another time. Bumble's relaunch also includes updated dating intentions badges that allows users to indicate on their profiles whether they're looking for a quote-unquote life partner or simply fun, casual dates. All right, so Bumble is becoming Hinge. Let's just call a spade, y'all. Like, if you've been on Hinge, you know that prompt thing was what Hinge started with. They changed it later on where you didn't have to respond to a prompt. You could just like a prompt. And the dating intentions things, Hinge did that a mad long ago. Hinge did not pay me. This is not an ad. I just have been on dating apps, including Bumble and Hinge. So, yeah, specs off, my bad. I don't really think this is a bad thing, just to be clear, just to give a little slice of my opinion. I think this is smart that this new CEO or head person is coming in to kind of make pivots that they feel are necessary for the brand and for the app to continue to be able to survive, because it's pretty clear based on that article that they're not exactly thriving. So although that article did not quote numbers to where I got to, I didn't want to read the whole article to y'all, but although they didn't quote exact numbers of what their loss and profit margins are, it's clear that they're trying to keep up with the times, and creating more engagement from the beginning is a good thing. So I think this is a good thing. I'm curious to see what y'all think about it. If you've been on Bumble, what has your experience been? I do think it's interesting, weird. I do think it's weird that they're copying Hinge in this way. But what I think is what stands out more to me, I'm trying to be careful about how I choose my words here for multiple reasons, but what's interesting to me is they're still limiting what men can do. So yeah, men can now speak first, quote unquote, but only if they respond to a specific prompt that the woman sets. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's like, if it's open, let it be open. I guess they're trying to do baby steps. I get it. And to be clear, I think women should always be comfortable. But I just feel like if you're going to give men the power to speak, then give them the power to speak. Like, I don't know. I think it's weird, but y'all can let me know what y'all think. I just think it's interesting that Bumble is starting to change in this way when, again, their specific niche and pitch, their specific pitch has always been the women empowerment and all of those things that I mentioned and that were mentioned in the article. So I thought that was worth sharing with y'all. I don't know who's on dating apps and not, but I think it's interesting even if you are or are not on dating apps right now. And let's keep it there. They mentioned something that I already had bookmarked, and I'd like to read about it, because they mentioned in that article that what they're seeing is dating app users are kind of exhausted and are seeking more in real life connections, more people to people connections, and less with the screens. So I think that's interesting, and it ties to something I already had bookmarked. So let's just go there next. Specs back on for y'all, you know what I mean? So this is from Yahoo News. I don't really go there very often, but I thought this was interesting that this popped up on my feed. So this article's headline reads, "Tired of dating apps? Real life singles experiences are making a comeback. Many users are tired of the swiping, matching, ghosting cycle and are looking to meet cute in person." Meet cute is in quotes. Well, it says here, many dating app users are feeling exhausted by the endless cycle of swiping, matching, and ghosting, leading to a shift towards more meaningful in-person interactions. Alternative dating options such as IRL singles events and speed dating are gaining popularity among individuals seeking genuine connections beyond the limitations of dating apps. Companies like Flashpack and Match Group are responding to the changing dating landscape by offering IRL experiences and events to facilitate meaningful friendships and potential romantic relationships. And so they go through in this article someone who has an experience on dating apps and is tired and looking for other things. I don't want to read this whole thing. Just want to kind of pick certain parts that I think stand out. So it says here, while options like Bumble, Hinge, and Tinder saw years of steady growth by offering virtual places for people to connect, many users have started to notice their shortcomings: endless in-app conversations that don't lead to dates, fake profiles, limited free options, and increase in quote-unquote cringe factor when it comes to paying for supposedly better choices. And while some users might not be breaking up with the apps altogether, their eyes are definitely wandering to other options. It says the apps have noticed, with many shedding employees and rethinking their strategies. According to the New York Times, Match Group and Bumble have lost more than $40 billion in market value since 2021. And that's why I thought this was interesting, because I already had this article pulled up and then found that Bumble thing. And so I thought it was interesting that the Bumble thing mentioned what this is saying. And $40 billion is a lot of bread to be losing. And so it's saying people are turning to in-person events. It mentions a couple of different companies that are hosting in real life singles events in major cities like New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. All right, so there's one company called Feels that they mention. It says people who buy a ticket for the Feels dating experience, which also includes polyamorous and sapphic editions, can range from about $70 to $95 per event. Pair up on activities like hugging another person for a period of time, or even giving your partner a series of compliments. The woman who launched the company, her name is Ali Hoffman. It says Hoffman launched the event in New York in 2022, in part to combat the quote-unquote bad behavior of ghosting and breadcrumbing, basically stringing someone along, that she was seeing on dating apps. It says while the average age of attendees is mid-30s, Hoffman said she's seen participants as young as early 20s. 21 is the minimum age since alcohol is served, all the way to people in their 60s. Ticket prices are set with intention, she said, to ensure that people who join are really invested in the experience. This is about learning a toolkit for more meaningful interactions. Last thing I'll say from the article, it says while 30% of U.S. adults say they've used dating apps, according to a 2023 study from Pew Research Center, that number hasn't changed, much less grown from a similar survey by the organization in 2019. So I think that this is really interesting that we're seeing things kind of revert back to in real life specs off. While I think it's interesting that this is reverting back to the in real life events. And I get it, right? Like, it's cool swiping and seeing different profiles and getting excited when someone matches with you. But it's also like, how much time are we going to spend on screens? A lot of people are on screens at work, and then they're on screens on social media, and then they're on screens watching things like, on YouTube or on their televisions or, whatever tablet or device they have. And then on top of that, Then you're on the dating apps. It's a lot of screen time and it can be exhausting. So I am not surprised, but I thought this was really interesting because it speaks about how Bumble and Match Group have lost so much money in market value, not necessarily their profit margin specifically, but market value speaks to a larger conversation, which we could have another time maybe. But the point is, they're losing a lot of money and people don't want to just live on these apps all day. And in person, you kind of get a better feel for the person as well. Online, you could be any fake person you want to be with fake pictures and fake information, or you could use your own thing, but create an online persona. It's a little different when you're in person. You can see the person, smell the person, and interact with the person, look at their smile and the way they react and the things that they do, their quirks and their phrases, and all of these different things are very different in person. And it makes sense that even something like speed dating is gaining more popularity because even though it's quicker, it is still a huge upgrade from just staring at a device and having no real connection with this person. So I thought it was interesting. I thought it was worth sharing. But I'm not surprised that in real life is making a comeback, because that's where it all ends up, right? The hope, if you meet someone online and you connect with them, the hope is that eventually you build enough of a rapport to trust each other and meet in person, in a lot of instances anyway. And so if that's the end goal, I don't know why people would want to be married to the devices to begin with. I see both sides. I have been on dating apps. I really like doing things in person, meeting people in person. I've done both, and so I understand both sides. But again, I'm not surprised. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I totally get it. So that is our dating segment for today. Let's head over to politics as usual. Speaking of someone who gets it, before I throw the specs on, I just want to say, I believe that politicians are liars. At large, politicians are paid to play a game. That's the way I view it, the political arena. There's a term called crooked. There's a term that people use, which is crooked politicians. But I believe that's mostly the default. Are there exceptions? I'm sure there are, but I believe that to be a politician, you have to have an agenda. And so therefore, you can only be honest to a certain extent, because you're constantly pushing an agenda and trying to further your agenda in one way or another. A little different than someone who's in a corporate job trying to climb the corporate ladder. Yes, there are similarities, but I think it's very different. And so I say that to say, I often come on this platform and speak about things that politicians are doing. I've spoken about Republicans and Democrats. I don't discriminate when I give these critiques, because I think people forget that politicians really are supposed to work for who? We the people, quote unquote, right? So I say that before I get into this next topic, because it is about a politician. And I find that with the popular politicians, when I critique them, people feel very strongly one way or another and think that I am either co-signing or hating on the politician. And I'm not. So, yeah. That being said, someone who gets it is Donald Trump. I know y'all probably feel away by me saying this. I know that probably invoked some emotion, but I have to be very honest with you. I have said up here multiple times that Donald Trump and his team are very good at what they do. And I know you might be hearing this and say, but JD, he's got tons of cases open against him. That is true. But JD, there are people who think awful things about him. That is true. But what you cannot deny are the facts. And one fact about Donald Trump is the man knows how to secure funds, money, cheddar, bread. The list goes on. This guy and his team, because I don't believe it is simply Donald Trump. I believe it is Donald Trump and his team who are very good at securing and seeking out money, right? So not just keeping money, but getting new money to come in. I think they are constantly finding different tax loopholes, different business opportunities, different ways to get loans for cheaper than other people or other organizations. They're just really smart and focused on this task, and they do a great job. I think regardless what you feel about him as a politician or a businessman or even as a person, I think the fact remains that him and his team are very good at this. Because going back to those legal cases, one of the legal cases had a lot to do with money. And it was said that if he couldn't provide a certain amount of money, he could lose it all. And I know he was able to negotiate and get the amount lowered and all that stuff. Cool. But just a couple weeks later, what happens? This happens. This article is from CNN Business. And truly, there's not a lot to say here except what has happened. And what happened is Donald Trump, as we say, just came up. All right, let me read this. The headline reads, Donald Trump just got another $1.8 billion worth of Trump media stock. Wowzers. Trump Media and Technology Group disclosed the windfall for Trump in a filing Tuesday, that's yesterday, saying the former president has received another 36 million shares in the company. That bonus, known as quote-unquote earnout shares, was triggered by the company's share price staying above certain levels. Trump said in the filing that on April 26, Trump Media said in the filing that on April 26, it officially determined the performance criteria had been satisfied and Trump was, quote, subsequently issued the earnout shares. At current prices, those new shares are valued at approximately $1.8 billion on paper. Though the share price has been extremely volatile, Trump now holds Trump now holds an even more dominant stake in Trump Media, amounting to 114.75 million shares, or 64.9% of the total outstanding. Wow. There's a lot more, and I don't really think we need to read the whole article. I think y'all are smart enough to get the gist of it. But, hey man, this is what I'm saying. The boy's good. You could love Trump. You could hate Trump. You could not give a fuck about Trump. But the boy remains. That man and his team are good. Yeah, I know this wasn't some random deal and money just fell out the sky. I'm aware. But being able to keep the stock price in a certain area means that they're still on their P's and Q's. You got to think about what's going on, right? Let's just think objectively, right? Court cases going on, cool. Running for president again, cool. Lots of stuff in the media has been going on. Whether you think that's up or down, cool. But the point is, even with all of the things going on with his trials, his election campaign, what he does publicly, what people are promoting or using to slander his name, the price still remained in a way, in an area that allowed him to get this payout. Those people are good, man. Whether you love them or hate them, props where props are due. They know how to get that money. Yeah. And speaking of money, I told y'all a while ago about Tip-flation. Everywhere you go, everyone is asking for a tip. You can't buy a coffee, a donut, a slice of pizza, get a haircut. You can't do a damn thing without people trying to get a tip. I mean, you can't do anything, pay anywhere without that tip button coming up. Even if the person behind the counter is not getting the tip. I went to a Dunkin' Donuts I frequent and the tip thing came up. I'm cool with the dude behind the counter. I say, oh, my man, if I get this tip, you gonna get it? He said, no, brother, please don't press it because we're not gonna get the tip directly. It's a crying shame. It's really bad. I tipped him on the side with cash. But all of that to say what? Someone thinks they have a solution. An organization, a company thinks they have a solution. Who is that, you ask? You'll never guess. And I'll let you think about it while I put on the specs and pull it up. I hope you guessed it because I gave you some time. But if you didn't, here's the answer. Americans have tipping fatigue. Domino's thinks it knows the answer. What? Domino's? What? Domino's. I didn't guess it. Did you guess it? Put it in the comments if you guessed it. I never would have guessed Domino's. But according to CNN Business, Domino's. Let's get to it. It says here, Americans are being asked to tip on digital screens for everything from a cup of coffee to self-checkout at grocery stores. And many are frustrated with the new tipping culture. Pizza chain Domino's aims to tap into that exasperation, not by eliminating tips. However, instead, Domino's is encouraging tipping even more. What? I know you just hearing this and thinking to yourself, well, how's that going to fix the problem? Don't worry, we've got answers. It says here, pizza chain Domino's aims to tap into that exasperation. Oh, I read that already. Domino's launched a promotion that rewards customers with $3 off of a future online order. For every $3 or more, they tip a Domino's delivery driver. An ad jumped on my screen. Domino's You Tip, We Tip deal runs through mid-September. Quote, at Domino's, we know there's a pressure to tip these days. A narrator says in a cheeky new commercial showing people being asked to tip at the grocery store, gym, and even a wedding. Domino's wants to say, thanks for the tip by tipping you back. The promotional strategy serves several purposes for Domino's. First, the ad campaign is a crafty way for the brand to engage with consumers. Second, the $3 promotion may help Domino's grow sales. Customers are hunting for deals so they can save money after 3 years of raising prices, driven in large part by the COVID-19 pandemic. Third, the advertisement is a labor recruitment strategy, says the head of analytics research at data analytics company Pacer AI. Quote, it's gotten more competitive to attract drivers, he said. Domino's can point to this as a way to recruit new drivers while keeping existing drivers satisfied. Hey, listen, man. Innovation is the name of the game. I ain't mad at Domino's. In fact, I might order some Domino's just because of this. You know what I'm saying? Fat boy in the building. You know what I'm saying? And that's smart because $3 is not a super crazy tip. So if they tip $3 or more, you get $3 off your next joint. Pretty smart. I don't know if you can stack those $3. Probably not. I'm ODing. But that would be cool. You know what I mean? Something for you to consider, Domino's. Yeah, I thought this was cool. I said, oh, okay, Domino's trying to flip it a little bit. This is kind of smart. Sometimes giving a discount makes people want to come back a little more. And I think that's a smart move on Domino's part. I just thought it was so interesting that Domino's is like, we got to attack this tip-flation and tip exhaustion and encourage people to tip. But it's also really smart. I got to be honest because, yeah, you want to keep those drivers. With Lyft and Uber taking drivers away for, delivery and DoorDash and all this stuff. There's so many apps now that people can supplement their income. It might behoove those drivers to stick around with this new policy. I don't know. Not policy, promotion. And so we'll see. But I think it's smart. Smart way to market. Smart way to encourage people to tip. And smart way to try to keep or bring in new drivers. So I think this is pretty fly. What do y'all think? We got one last topic and then we're going to hit some quickies. Let's move on to our next, main topic, quote unquote. A lot of people know that Johnson & Johnson was under fire. They had lots of lawsuits because their baby powder and talc powders, or rather it's in the article. The powder that Johnson & Johnson sold, which a lot of people used, the lawsuits have stated that women who used, not all, but large number of women who used their Johnson & Johnson's baby powders and other powders, we come to find out they had asbestos. And listen, the quick version is they caused ovarian cancer for these women. There are a lot of women involved in these lawsuits. Because basically the Johnson & Johnson products caused them to get ovarian cancer. So this is old news, but there's an update. And I think the update is worth sharing because there's a lot that's been going on with Johnson & Johnson the last couple years. And these settlements are being discussed once again because there's a lot of money to dish out. A lot of people have been, harmed is the best way to say it. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to come across like women blaming or victim shaming. I don't think anybody was doing anything wrong. I think if you're trying to maintain and groom and, be hygienic, you're going about things the right way. It's not your fault that a product caused harm to you. And then something so extreme like ovarian cancer, it really sucks. So people should be paid. But I haven't seen a lot about the payments. And so I saw this article talking about it in depth and I thought it was worth sharing with y'all. So specs back on. This is from Reuters. The headline reads, J&J advances $6.48 billion settlement of talc cancer lawsuits. It says here, Johnson & Johnson said on Wednesday, when was this article written so we could have the right Wednesday? Oh, okay. So the other day. I don't know if it was this morning or, well, the article was written today, so I guess so. All right. I don't know why it says Wednesday then, but whatever. Anyway, Johnson & Johnson says it is moving forward with a $6.48 billion proposed settlement of tens of thousands of lawsuits alleging that its baby powder and other talc products contain asbestos and cause ovarian cancer. The deal would allow it to resolve the lawsuits through a third bankruptcy filing of a subsidiary company. Wow. It will begin a 3-month voting period in hopes of reaching consensus on a settlement of all current and future ovarian cancer claims. Those claims account for 99% of the talc-related lawsuits filed against J&J, including about 54,000 lawsuits that are centralized in a New Jersey federal court proceeding. Courts have rebuffed J&J's 2 previous efforts to resolve the lawsuits through the bankruptcy of the subsidiary created to absorb the company's talc liability, LTL Management. J&J, which says its products do not contain asbestos and do not cause cancer, said that its settlement is supported by attorneys representing the majority of plaintiffs who have filed cancer lawsuits against the company. Eric Haas, shrug. J&J's worldwide vice president of litigation said gathering votes before bankruptcy filing would allow the new plan to succeed where J&J's past efforts faltered. Quote, the claimants get to vote, and that's the major difference here. He said that Wednesday on a call with investors. J&J said it is confident that the deal would reach a 75% support threshold needed for a bankruptcy settlement that would end the litigation entirely, shutting off future lawsuits and preventing people from opting out of the deal to pursue their separate claims. Attorneys representing cancer victims seem divided on the proposal on Wednesday. Quote, I believe J&J's proposed plan announced today will bring peace and closure to our clients and the thousands of women who have fought by our side in the quest for justice, said Jim Onder, who represents about 21,000 talc claimants and who supported J&J's previous bankruptcy proposal. Other lawyers said J&J is trying to stuff the ballot box. Yikes. I'm saying yikes. The article doesn't say yikes. By getting votes from lawyers who have not sued J&J or whose victims have types of cancers that do not have a strong scientific link to talc. Mike Papantonio, an attorney opposed to the deal, said J&J has been, quote, covertly soliciting law firms to accept their deal, promising a swift payday for some opportunistic lawyers. Sheesh. The proposed deal would build on J&J's settlements with about 95% of people who have sued the company after developing mesothelioma, a rare form of cancer linked to asbestos exposure, as well as its settlements in U.S. states, which have alleged that the companies failed to warn consumers about the dangers of its talc products. Last part, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to give as much information as possible here. J&J said it set aside a total of $11 billion to account for all of its talc settlements, including the proposed ovarian cancer settlement, mesothelioma claims, state claims, and settlements with 2 bankrupt companies that supply talc used in J&J products. J&J recorded an incremental charge of $2.7 billion in the first quarter of 2024, added to its previous reserve for talc litigation. In its second bankruptcy filing, LTL put forward an $8.9 billion deal that would have dealt with all talc-related claims at once. After the deal was rejected, Haas said it was more practical to settle mesothelioma claims outside of bankruptcy before addressing much larger claims of 85,000 to 100,000 ovarian cancer claims. Haas said J&J faced hundreds of mesothelioma lawsuits and has settled all but 153 lawsuits. Whew. There's more, but I mean, I think we got the meat and potatoes of it. I don't really have an opinion here. Like I said, people need to be paid if these things are true. It's really foul if they did do these things. If J&J knew that this was happening and they let it slide under the radar in hopes to just keep making profit, it's not surprising to me, but it is foul. And so people need to be paid, because cancer is no joke. Like, it's not like they caught a cold. This is life-changing, life-altering, life-losing stuff. So, people need to be paid. And so I don't know how fast this can happen. I understand why different lawyers are torn on these issues, especially if what they're saying is true, that they're just trying to promise people a quick flip, promise lawyers a quick flip. It's also what the kids call nasty work. So those are our main topics. Let's hit some quickies, and then we're going to get out of here. Specs on for the quickies. We're going to try to run through these quickies. Y'all know a quickie? I just like to read the headline, say a little something, and we get out of here. All right. According to Reuters, Turkey to join South Africa's genocide case against Israel at World Court, minister says. So there's already something going on with South Africa. They have a genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, ICI. And it looks like Turkey will be joining them in this case. I'll just read you this first quote and we're out of here. It says, upon completion of the legal text of our work, we will submit the declaration of official intervention before the ICJ. Oh, I don't know why I said ICI. In front of the ICJ with the objection of implementing this political decision. With the objection of implementing this political decision. I can't read today. Fadon said in a joint press conference with Indonesia's Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi in Ankara. Quote, Turkey will continue to support the Palestinian people in all circumstances, he said. So they're not playing. The ICJ ordered Israel in January to refrain from any acts that could fall under the Genocide Convention and to ensure its troops commit no genocidal acts against Palestinians after South Africa accused Israel of state-led genocide in Gaza. So this been going on since January, and now Turkey is joining South Africa in this case. So I thought that was worth mentioning. That's it. That's one quickie. Let's move on to the next quickie. All right, listen. I'ma just say what it says here, and I'm out. I'm not even gonna say her name, but y'all know who it is. MT Green says she'll demand vote on removing Mike Johnson as House Speaker next week. All right. It says here, not my words, it says here in an article by The Guardian, far-right Republican Congresswoman says she is absolutely calling vote on motion next week and thinks vulnerable Democrats could be hurt by supporting Mike Johnson. And so her aim is very simple. She wants to get Speaker Mike Johnson out of there. And so it says here, after a lengthy denunciation of Mike Johnson, MT Green said she will call for a vote on her motion to remove him as Speaker of the House next week. Quote, next week, I am going to be calling this motion to vacate. Absolutely calling it, Green said. That's all I got. That's the headline. That's our quickie. There's not only rap beef, y'all. There's political beef too. The next one. This is from The Guardian. It says here, OnlyFans investigated over claim children accessed pornography. OFCOM looks into whether website for adult performers failed to properly implement age verification checks. The UK Communications Watchdog has opened an investigation into whether OnlyFans allowed children to view pornography on its site after an age checking error. Wow. Listen, that is wild, but also I would like to know what the error is. Maybe I could read the article in full and find out for y'all. But not surprised if kids found the way around it. But if OnlyFans is not putting in the little easy button that needs to be pressed that says I'm over 21 or whatever, come on, man. Super easy to put that button up there. I mean, come on. You could at least put the button. Everybody gonna say they're over 21 or 18 or whatever, but at least put the button, y'all. Come on now. And if they put the button, you know, hey, yeah, I got to figure that out in court. Now we're going to a source I don't usually go to, but I'm trying to be well-rounded up here this time, y'all. You know what I mean? I'm trying to show y'all that I could pull from anybody who got real shit in their site. And so I'm going to Fox News for this one. That's right. For our final quickie, we head over to Fox News. EcoHealth Alliance president to testify on COVID origins. Wuhan lab taxpayer-funded research. NGO worked with China lab on gain-of-function research to assess transmission of bat coronavirus to humans. And so that's what's going on. It says here, EcoHealth Alliance president Peter Daszak is expected to publicly testify on Wednesday before the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic, according to a congressional lawmaker. Nope. According to congressional lawmakers, EcoHealth, a U.S.-based nonprofit whose mission is to prevent pandemics, use taxpayer dollars to, quote, fund dangerous gain-of-function research at Wuhan Institution of Virology in China. That is the quote. I probably shouldn't have put up air quotes, but just want to make sure y'all know it's not me saying it. It is what Fox News article says, and that should be happening next week, Wednesday. Ladies and gentlemen, those are our quickies. This has been our pod. Let me take the specs off and say this final thing. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you, whether you are here for the first time or you've been here from the beginning. I appreciate you. I'll be back very soon, and I will be doing better moving forward. Adios.